Got the top 10 wide receivers, the 2015 season. Do you
Yes.
have? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what? We didn't even talk about honorable mentions for um, wide receivers in these lists. We did it for quarterbacks and running backs, but I kind of forgot to talk about honorable
Um,
mentions.
Number 10, Demarius Thomas.
All right.
1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns. Um, Honestly, touchdowns is what held him back on this whole list.
He has the least amount of touchdowns on the top 10,
Yeah.
and that is what held him back.
Some of his other stats are a little bit better than some of these guys without like getting too reveal on our list and everything. But touchdowns is like significantly less than anyone else. So yeah, number 10, Demarius Thomas. But he's just going to the Super Bowl. So
He is going to the Super Bowl.
don't feel that bad for him.
Yeah. You know, the 6 touchdowns, how many did Peyton have all year? 9?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And actually, even before Peyton went down, I think, what, he had like 2 touchdowns from Peyton Manning during the season. So,
Yeah, most of it is for Guar.
right. I don't know, just bizarre year for the Broncos all around. Bizarre year for the Broncos offensively, and they're in the Super Bowl, so whatever. Number 9, Larry Fitzgerald. Guy had over 1,200 yards. Guy had 109 receptions. He averaged about 76 yards a game, 9 touchdowns. That you know,
And the only thing that held him back on this list was he has similar stats to the next few guys ahead of him.
yeah,
He did it with a lot more receptions.
yeah, he did.
That's what kept him down at 9 on this.
He was passed to a lot more, which I mean, it's great that he was getting that many receptions towards him, but he potentially could have had more yards because of all the receptions thrown towards him. But then again, you know what? He got switched to the slot receiver, so you know he wasn't making these big downhill, on line throws. But either way, Larry, I'm glad you're in the top 10 list. You're an incredible wide receiver, so there you go.
How's that? Number 8, Megatron. Maybe for the last time.
Maybe.
He had one less yard than Larry Fitzgerald, but about 20 or 21 less receptions here.
Right.
Same touchdowns. So
They had the same exact average yards per game and same amount of touchdowns, which I thought was really bizarre. And only one less yard. They almost had identical stats all around, which is just weird.
So, I mean, for all the talk, I guess people are so used to Calvin Johnson being like number 1.
Uh huh.
Talking about him like, oh, he's in decline. Maybe the Lions started. I don't know. But I hope he doesn't retire. I'd like to see him play a little bit more. Maybe his spirits will be uplifted if he's on a different team.
I agree.
I mean, because if not, hey, good job, Detroit. You've wasted Barry Sanders and now Calvin Johnson, and all that time you've won a grand total of 1 playoff game.
Yeah. And then you kind of wonder why your franchise hasn't won anything since like 1953,
That's the reason. You suck.
which is more crazy that it's been that way for 70 years almost.
Ah, poor Detroit fan.
Poor Detroit. Sorry, guys. Number 7, we have AJ
You're not
Green.
that sorry.
Well, I'm not personally, I guess. But I kind of am. I liked Barry Sanders. I like Calvin Johnson, Adrian Green is number 7, though. That's the point we're getting at. Guy almost had 1,300 yards receiving. He had 1,300 yards in only 86 attempts, though, which is crazy.
He had more yards than the last two guys, and he had less attempts,
Yeah.
and he had
Or less receptions, at least.
yeah, less receptions, and he had an extra touchdown.
10 touchdowns, yeah. So, I mean, really good year from AJ Green. Or just solid year, got the top 10 list. You know, there's nothing to be ashamed of that. You know, I, I don't know. I guess you can't really complain.
Number 6. This guy, Allen Robinson, has the least receptions on this list of 80 and has 14 touchdowns. 14 touchdowns. That's tied for most. And 1,400 yards. Imagine what he could have done with more receptions.
Right. You know, I think part of the reason, because if you watch our in the quarterback video, we talk about Blake Bortles. Won't tell you what spot. You're gonna have to watch the video. But we talk about Blake Bortles, and he threw a lot this year.
Yeah.
But he also had Julius Thomas and Allen Hurns to throw it to. So I think he's spreading the ball around. You
And
know,
the other one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he definitely spreads the ball around a lot, but it's pretty clear cut that Allen Robinson takes care of business the most out of anybody he throws it to. The guy also has an average of 87 .5 yards a game, and then he also has the league most for longest reception, which is 90 yards. This guy is incredible. And what is it? His second year pro, or is this his rookie season? No, he's got to be second year pro.
I don't remember.
He's got to be second year pro,
They're not young guys on that team.
right?
They need to, yeah, they definitely need to talk about during the offseason. They need to incorporate him even more than already is into the offense.
Hmm.
He needs to get the ball even more. Like, he should get 100 receptions at least.
And if you watch the Pro Bowl, he's amazing in the Pro Bowl too.
Hey, really? Yeah. Earn, buddy.
Number 5.
Why are you thinking?
Sorry. Number 5, one of your favorites, Odell Beckham Jr.
OBJ, represent LSU.
Yeah. Yeah, 1450 yards, so more than Allen Robinson. 96 receptions, so a little more receptions too. So that's also pretty impressive too. That he had 16 more receptions than Allen Robinson and only 50 more yards from OBJ. And I mean, everybody knows how good Odell Beckham Jr. is. Although, realistically too, I think the only thing that was keeping Odell down this year is just because the Giants kind of just suck this year. That's about
Well,
it.
he's just getting double covered a lot.
Well, yeah. Still 13 touchdowns though, despite being double covered a lot. So
Right. And I mean, a lot of why he's even as high because he's talking about just. I think he has the best hands in the league.
hmm
You just watch him catch the ball, he's like when he's doing drills and stuff. And just he follows it with his arm and he just catches it.
it honestly reminds
Yeah.
me a lot of what Calvin Johnson did when he was younger.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot like that.
Odell has the least amount of receptions left on the first two.
Yes.
Number 4, Brandon Marshall. First guy on the list with 1,500 yards. He got 1,502, 109 receptions, and 14 friggin' touchdowns, which is why he's number 4. His yards, everything's impressive. His touchdowns are really kind of just what. Because he's got more attempts and maybe not a lot more yards than some of the guys we just put him over, but 14 touchdowns. He's got the best stats overall. It took him more receptions to maybe get there, but, you know.
Think about where Brandon Marshall. Think about where Brandon Marshall was last year on the Bears, and what he's accomplished in 1 year on the Jets. It really proves just how damn good he is.
I mean, not to dish your boy quarterback there, but he's not the greatest quarterback in the world. Look at his stats.
Right. I mean, Fitzpatrick isn't bad, but yeah, I mean, he's not like a top 10 quarterback, but that's just showing how good Brandon Marshall's stats are, and it kind of just shows the difference of, you know, it was probably one of the biggest blessings of him leaving Chicago, especially since Chicago just kind of fell. But you know what? That's kind of interesting because with Chicago having John Fox now, it makes you wonder what it would have looked like if he stayed there. But oh well, that's neither here or there.
Right.
Number three, DeAndre Hopkins.
The entire Texans offense in one picture.
Pretty much, yeah. This guy, I mean, he deserves to be number three for a lot of reasons. He has the third most receiving yards in the NFL, 11 touchdowns, which is damn good. You know, he had 111 receptions. And how many quarterbacks did he go through between Ryan Mallett to Brian Hoyer to Ryan Mallett to Brian Hoyer to Ryan Mallett back to Brian Hoyer to TJ Yates to I think they brought back Matt Schaub for a little bit. I mean, this guy went through so many quarterbacks in 1 year, and I mean, eventually they ended up sticking with Brian Hoyer. But as he showed in the playoffs, that he isn't a great quarterback by any means. I mean,
I
he
mean,
probably is one of the most embarrassing quarterbacks to ever see in a postseason game ever. And still, despite one of the worst, I mean, maybe they're not as bad as Brandon Whedon, but uh,
here,
yeah. I mean, they're pretty damn bad. I mean, the lower ranking, I would DeAndre Hopkins. The only thing that could have helped him get his stats up is if like maybe Mark Sanchez or Geno Smith was on their team, and even by that, it would be up maybe 30 or 40
uh,
extra yards, and that's it. But it says a lot about DeAndre
that is
Hopkins.
by far the worst quarterback situation on this list.
Yeah, on this list by
Probably
far,
in the NFL, honestly.
and
And he's number.
and he still gets his shit done. I
I
mean,
want to see. I want to see what he can do when he has a quarterback.
exactly. That's the one thing about the Texans. Oh, do not waste your potential with this guy. Do not do what the Lions did to Calvin Johnson
And you
and
got Watt
waste
over
it.
there on defense. You're wasting his time on defense.
Right, exactly. Texans have so many great players lined up and cannot get just everything in order all at once, and it's really unfortunate.
I just want you to know something because it's over there. That's where the defense is. Over there. I pointed over there for some reason when I was like over there.
Just give us number two, man.
He's right there in the door. You see? Alright, number two was actually okay. Number one and number two. I just want to say first of all, split hairs here. You can make a pretty solid argument for any. I was actually, I mean, we had a good bit of debate about this,
Yeah.
and I was actually in favor of this guy at first. And I don't know. I still think you can make a pretty good argument for him, but at the end of the day, he was Falcon. So Julio Jones, um, most yards, 8 touchdowns. I mean, what can you say about this guy? He's tall, he can catch the ball, he has great hands. The touchdowns probably held him back a little bit. If he would have got more, then it just, it's really the only thing you can say is he only had 8, which is, other than Mary Thomas is the lowest on the list. But,
It's still not bad.
number one, when you compare these stats between them,
Yeah.
number one is, you want to do the demo, the honors, the surprise, shock.
Number one is probably one of my favorite players to watch that's not on the Packers team, and that's Antonio Brown. He was what, less than 30 yards behind Julio Jones. They
And
both had
same amount of
136.
receptions.
Yeah,
Same
both
thing.
had 136 receptions. Uh, he averaged 114 yards a game. Julio Jones averaged 116 yards a game, and he had 10 touchdowns. So I mean, 8 and 10, pretty damn close all around. I mean, they were so comparable. The only reason that we put Antonio Brown over him, what was our deciding factor, was Julio Jones had 3 fumbles this year.
Right.
That's the only reason why we put Antonio Brown as that slight edge above him. Now, as you said, if you want to argue Julio Jones for pretty much any other reason, I would probably agree with you for a lot of things. Lions because
I mean,
Julio
he definitely
Jones.
had the lesser quarterback to work with. No offense to Matt Ryan, he's a good quarterback, but Roethlisberger is a better quarterback.
Yeah. Well, and then my argument to that is because Antonio Brown's had this kind of stats, and between Mike Vick played, Landry Jones played. I mean, he's had three different quarterbacks thrown into him, and he still had amazing stats at the end of the season, which is crazy.
So these two guys are basically equal. Like they're fantasy draft first rounders, you know.
Right.
Which is funny. Going into the season, I'll eat a little bit of crow here at the end of this. Brown, I think we ranked him at number 4 preseason ranking. In our personal discussion, we didn't like do a video or anything, but it's like we made our own little personal ranking.
Oh, right.
And I was still kind of not sold on him because I'd only seen him really at that perform at that level for 1 year. And I was kind of just like, I don't know, is that Roethlisberger? Was that him? And it was Roethlisberger too, but I mean, it was him. He's an amazing wide receiver. He took number 1 on our list. So, bravo. I'm curious to see what he can do with the Pittsburgh Steelers next year if they can stay healthy.
And that's exactly it. You know, it would almost be an ironic sham for them next year if Le'Veon Bell and Ben Roethlisberger stay healthy, and then Antonio Brown gets hurt next year. That would be like just such a. Let's hope it doesn't happen by any
I like
means.
this guy ever since he kicked that kicker in the face. So
I forgot about that. I thought you were gonna say you've liked this guy ever since he hugged the goalpost from that one touchdown. No, that's okay.
The true deflated balls were right there on that goalpost.
If anything else,
You know he had a couple.
the deciding factor why Antonio Brown is number 1 is because he had one of the best touchdown celebrations ever in this past season.
One of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Ridiculous. Alright, I made 2 genitalia jokes in the last minute. Let's cut this.
Yeah. So, anyways, if you agree, disagree, want to make your own top 10 list of best wide receivers, drop us a line, leave us a comment on here, leave us a comment on Facebook or on Twitter, because there's links in the description below. Make sure to watch our other top 10 lists that we have coming out this week, and then also make sure to watch our Super Bowl predictions, because the Super Bowl is right around the corner, and we're very excited about that. So, I think that should be about it, unless you got another dick joke in you. Okay.